And without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our third speaker, Peter Getchell, VP Client Solutions at ELB Learning. So with that, Peter, take it away.
Thank you so much, Liz. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Thanks for taking some time to connect today on this great webinar. Hope anyone that's been affected by the snow and ice are doing well and their backs aren't too sore from shoveling. I thought today I would take you through some great information on ELB and Rockstar Learning and talking about our reporting and obviously some integrated um, content development. And what you're going to see here, essentially, momentarily, if I share the right screen, you're going to see a brief little slideshow. I'm going to just walk through. Hopefully, everyone's familiar with ELB. If you've done a lot of training industry sessions, you're pretty familiar with us. But we are a full service e-learning company that provides a lot of different products and services. We're going to go through one of the products today called Rockstar Learning. Well, we have everything for strategy and development, curriculum design, AI transformation, strategists to help you. We have a partner team to build content. We have a staff augmentation team to find you contractors, creation tools, which you're going to see a lot of them throughout Rockstar today that you might have questions about. And then the delivery mechanism being Rockstar Learning, which is our super simple to use, but very powerful LMS for reporting and content development. We're going to go through that right now. And, it's really about creating, delivering engaging experiences. That's basically the key of ELB as a whole. We're going to touch on a lot of the challenges that Rockstar kind of solves, low engagement with different LMSs, outdated technology, limited integration in ecosystems, complexity of the platform, AI confusion, when to use it, how to use it, what to do with it, and then lack of personalization. That's all the things that Rockstar Learning kind of helps you solve and kind of does within. And you'll kind of be able to see all of that within this environment. So what I thought I would do is I'd take you through a little bit on the front end of the platform so you can see how the site can look. Obviously, I branded it specifically for training industry. So it's meant to be white labeled and specifically for a certain use case. Because obviously one of those problems was, hey, this isn't very personalized to my organization or my users. So we're going to go through a little bit on the front end, and then I figured I would show you at the same time how I'm doing it. So it's not all you don't think it's all smoke and mirrors. We'll go through a bit on the back end as well, how things are looking a certain way, and how you would go about, doing this. So if you have any questions, like Liz says, feel free to open up, ask them at any point throughout the presentation, and I will be happy to answer them as we're going. But like I said, from a learner experience, this is meant to be completely white labeled and specific to your needs and your purpose for delivering training, whether it's onboarding training, whether it's for internal specifically, external specifically, or a combination of both. Even if you want to sell content, this platform is extremely flexible in how you deliver your training to your organization. Like I said, you control the branding, the look and feel. You have the ability to personalize this experience to your users. They come in, they see a certain look and feel, what's called an enterprise. They come in, they're assigned to a certain set of learner groups. That is their permission. So you can do role-based permissions. You could do organizational hierarchy permissions, however you want to slice it up. You have that flexibility to do so. What we're looking at here essentially is the dashboard. So I'm getting personalized enrollments, things that the system has automatically generated, things that a coach or manager has assigned me to. Enrolled content is basically things that are going to get emailed out to me so I get reminders and notifications. In our system, a course is basically a collection of modules. You have flexibility to turn it into like a learning path, however you want to structure it. In this case, I have multiple tiers I can navigate through so I can get into the actual course content and curriculums. You can control how those courses are driven, whether they're permission based, whether you want to do it as like a prerequisite driven. All of that content plays beautifully right in the platform. Nothing kind of links out, so I'm taken out of the platform. Whether you are, watching videos, interacting with it, with things like ratings or saving it to my dashboard or showing commentary, which are like tips and techniques that might pop up throughout, just to try to make this more engaging for your learners. You can even drop learner activities on things, which typically I guess you couldn't do with like a video or a PDF or even like an event. Ask some questions to get some real world evidence of what's going on with that learner. And that reports back to the back end as well. So everything that I'm doing here reports to the database, so I know what people are taking, what are they doing, how are they interacting and engaging. And then the content kind of, has a similar page for all of them: title, description, call to actions, progress, attachment, and then right to the next piece of content that's going to take me into another type of content. So it might be off the shelf courseware that you're leveraging through us or your own. Anything you can kind of get your hands on, you could load into the system, whether it's video, SCORM, XAPI, you name it. So that's a little bit on the enrolled capabilities, pushing out content, but also making it prescribed to them. You could also do things like feature content. So if it's specific to a certain role or a certain department of an organization, this can be customized based on who that person is. Again, individual courses, which are collections of modules, or it could just be an individual module like an arcade that I want people to play and interact and earn points to gain, rewards. But in this case, I have another course, multiple levels. I can drill in. We do have a number of those creation tools that I mentioned before. Things like, the training arcade to build games and gamification, like, pre-built games like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, Trivia, and about 12 in total that you can kind of embed inside the platform. You can do VR immersive stuff through our tool training scenario VR. You can also do like video practice and coaching. So all of those are basically modules that can publish content right into your Rockstar Learning backend. So meant to be super simple to get content up there and engaging content too. And then besides that, save, there's just places for them to save their favorite items. Events, if they're doing in-person trainings or virtual trainings, you can, have them show up on a calendar and people can actually, hey, I have an ILT session today. Let me log in, let me register for it, and then I can get credit for taking that training industry event like I'm doing right now. So real flexible in how you want to structure it from one audience to another. And yeah, that's from the learner perspective. Everything else, pretty straightforward. I can browse through the entire curriculum. I can search for things by title, description, keyword tags. And then what I didn't show, we do have a new thing that I'll show you on the back end. You can come through here, create a course or curriculum, or in this case, a 3-tier learning path, and get a completion of certificate at the end. I can get it, but I won't be able to get it until I complete all of those tasks. But in this case, I did finish all of these. I finished all these courses and I get a certificate of completion at the end. I'll show you that when I jump over in a second to the back end, because I think you'll be pretty impressed with how you can create them so easily and customize them. And when I do have those certificates as a learner, because again, I'm still in the learner perspective, I can come in here and edit my profile. I can show my training history, what I've taken and completed. I can get all my certificates that I might have got received throughout the year. Those are in here. And then if I have administrator rights, which I'm going to jump over to now, I have the ability to jump to the back end. And the back end is basically where I'm going about setting up all of these, this experience that I'm creating for the learners. So as I come back here, again, this is the administrative inside of it. And this is where I was talking about those white labeled environments for your learners. So back here as an admin, super admins have access to all of this. So all of the reporting, everything that's going on, smarter, faster reporting back here to see what people are answering on quizzes, see completion rates and things like that under reporting. Content management, obviously managing course content, manages users, setting up enrollments, and then, like I said, the settings is all the bells and whistles. Why does my training industry academy look like this? Because I dropped this logo, this banner, this color scheme. So keep in mind, if you decide you want to do other initiatives where people need their own branding, their own look and feel, you could pretty easily go in here and just create these custom enterprises. So everyone gets their own branding, their own look and feel. So it feels very white labeled for them. Again, whether it's internal, external, maybe it's department based, maybe it's customer based, however you want to set it up, you have the ability to add as many of these enterprises as you want. So that's what you're doing, all the bells and whistles here. And to that point, showing reporting, let's jump right into that because that was the next button here. We're going to go into reporting. So all the reporting in here is drawing down to my super level admin. Now there are two or three tiers of admins you can have. Super admin is going to see everything across the entire organization. So I can see everything across all my departments, all my offices. You have two levels of sub admins who will just see less content. They'll only see reporting that is tied to them, to their department, or maybe they're a manager of a group of 25 people. Their view will just be a little more narrow, but they'll have all the same exact reports. So I'll have a whole bunch of series of reports here. These are a little bit newer. They keep coming out on a regular basis as they find new reports to roll out. They'll drop them into here. A lot of it has to do with completions, enrollment, people that are enrolled in a course, which are the triggered email notifications. How are they completing it? You get some nice high-end dashboard level reporting here. You can set date ranges. And when I come into the individual reports, I have more filters down the side so you can kind of customize exactly what you want in this report, whether it's based on one of those enterprises that I talked about, offices, or learner groups being the permissioning. And then all of these are clickable to get into, like, how am I doing in the essentials path that I was just in? I have one person enrolled in it, and how is that person progressing through? All of these reports you see and will see have the ability to be exported. So if you want to pull out, a CSV file and kind of manipulate the data further, you can do that. If there is a particular report that you want to have emailed to, a manager every so often, every day, every week, every month, you can set up a scheduled report, and it'll, you name it, you say, I want it to come on this date and time every week. You can email those recipients, and the system will automatically do it. So that just, you find the report you like, whether it's a module report, you can schedule them all through here. All the other reports down here are also just filtered reports, and they're broken out by section, whether I have content, who's viewed, who's completed which courses and curriculums. Enrollments is a big thing, like I said earlier. Email notifications and reminders, but if I know I have a particular ELB essentials training, it'll show me everybody, whether it's 1 or 1,000 people that are enrolled in this course. I can sort by their progress to see how they're doing. I can click into each of these and see the path in which they're taking, whether they're not started, in progress, completed, and any scores that have been passed over by a particular quiz or assessment. And I can, print this out as an administrator, so I can see exactly, what it's going to look like when I print it. But this also can be filtered, it can be downloaded, it could also be scheduled. So all of these reports have that same capability, and everything has the ability to kind of be filtered, clicked into uniquely that way. Whether it's user tracking, by logins, by registration, by user details, drilling into particular users to say, hey, what's Peter been doing? I can drill into that. And this is essentially becomes like their transcript to see all the different modules they've completed, any course they've completed, and they can see all their certificates of completions if they wanted to. And an admin can download or schedule it to be sent to someone. Interactive is just that. It's the interactive content, whether it's scoring-based content, XAPI, even quizzes you build internally. It'll drill in and show you exactly how people are answering certain questions. So maybe you have a SCORM file that's going to send out and report back all the questions and answers that are being answered and responded to. You can drill into them and see exactly not only how many times did they pass or fail, but see what did they answer on certain quizzes and questions. So you can kind of compile that data and kind of come down to a response. So interactive events are your calendar of events, whether it's in person or virtual. You can see who's taken or who's enrolled into a particular event and use this as your roster for people that are attending. And then learner activity was that initial quiz side by side with the video that I could have responded to and got all the data from that learner activity, whether I put it on a PDF, which a lot of times you just get credit for taking the PDF when you open it. But in this case, if there's a learner activity on it, they have to complete that activity before they get a completion status. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility in how you get completion status on things like PDFs and URL links and things like that. So that's the reporting dashboard. It's recently been upgraded, super fast, and some new reports through that new reports section there. And one of the most, can this be used external? Yes, exactly. It can be used with internal and external. That's where those enterprises come into play with the ability to kind of brand it, white label it for them. We have, a good maybe about 30 or 40% of our clients that are actually selling content to customers, and they brand it and charge a premium on there. It doesn't cost them anything. It's included in the subscription, but they can add, customer branded environments, and deliver their training this way. That's the portal that they come into, and then all the content is basically whatever they're purchasing. So absolutely, you can do that. Um, so when it comes to content, and this is, I'm going to touch on a little bit of the AI because I mentioned before in that big pie chart, ELB as a whole has all of these different creation tools that people can use to build content, whether it's games, whether it's VR, whether it's video practice and coaching segment in our traditional like Lectora tool. But whatever tool you use, if it's Storyline, Captivate, all of that content can publish directly into Rockstar. But we do provide one in particular called MicroBuilder, which is our latest and greatest, very AI powered creation tool that just makes content very easy to build. I'd say for the more elaborate stuff, like, anything you can think up and build in like a storyline or a Lectora, you would use those more powerful tools. But MicroBuilder lets you build anything. Just about anyone can build in there because it's that easy. When it comes to content, think of the left as the instructional design perspective, the buckets of content per se. Like we looked at an ELB essentials, and I had 3 tiers in that learning path. If I edit it, you'll kind of get an idea. That's how I put the logo in there, the title, the description. Do I want it to be enrollable? Yes, because I want people to get reminders and I want them to have the ability to get enrolled by a manager if I wanted to. Do I want it to auto renew, auto enroll? Yes. What are the reminders? So you can configure each course to kind of function the way you want it to for that audience. That question about internal, external, maybe internal is going to get content prescribed a certain way, but customers are going to get something, or external people are going to get something a little different. You can customize each course to function differently. If I decide I want a certificate of completion at the end, great, turn on certificates, pick and choose the certificate style you want to use, and then pick and choose your color that you want it to be. And then, do I want this to expire at a certain date so I can get an alert, hey, these people are expiring at the end of the year? I can say, yes, it's going to expire at the end of the year. And then that's it. Prerequisites, make them take it in order so they can't just jump around. I would turn that on if I wanted to. Otherwise, I just save it. So in this case, I have content in these, but essentially, if you're starting out, these would be empty. And then the purpose is drop your content modules inside of those buckets. And on the right-hand side under your library is where you would add your own content. So I have the ability to upload, our events are technically modules. So I could have an in-person training that's going to take place first and then unlock all the on-demand training, or vice versa, take the on-demand and jump to an event. I can have files, so videos, SCORMs, PDFs, MP3s, kind of anything you can get your hands on. URL links can be modules. If you are building in our training arcade, you can pull your games in from there. If you're building in rehearsal for those video practice and coaching segments, you can pull those in. Our internal quizzing tool, our YouTube player. But then we have MicroBuilder, which you probably saw in that studio suite, because these are tools that you could just license individually, or we include MicroBuilder inside of Rockstar, our AI-driven creation tool. And I'm going to create a piece of content. So I'm going to say build micro learning module. And with AI turned on, you do have the ability, if some banks or financial firms are hesitant on using AI, you can turn it on, turn it off. It's up to you. But basically, I have it turned on here. I have this AI prompt saying, hey, build me it's basically asking for a prompt. Build me a course on something. So I'm going to say, build a course on effective communication in the workplace. Of course, I spelled that wrong. Space. There you go. Build a course. And as specific as I can get, I could be more detailed. Say, hey, make sure you touch on these topics. Make sure you make it, 10 sections, 4 sections. So the more specific your prompt is, and it's going to build a more specific course. If I just hit create, which I'll do, it's just going to use OpenAI and ChatGPT to write that content. If I say add source materials, it's going to use your copy. So your documents, presentations, PDFs that are talking on that topic, it'll use your content first and then leverage, the OpenAI to fill in any gaps if you asked it for certain areas. But what it's going to do now is start to script and write that copy. It takes about 10 to 30 seconds. And behind the scenes, you'll see, the course title is going to show up right there. The description is going to be populated. Um, and all of these section headers and paragraph sections will kind of, start to populate with basically a scripted course on effective communications. And it's come up with quite a bit, which is writing it now. And then once it's done, I think after section 8, I can come in here and start to look through it, make sure it's proper. And all of these sections are just text boxes. So if I want to change this and take out the one, I could do that. I can change the font. I can click into the text areas and say, if I don't like this, modify it, or leverage the AI rewrite and say, elaborate further or simplify this a little bit. And then the pluses lets it write more content after it. So write me an analogy, write me a question after it. And we'll basically, use that copy and come up with a multiple choice, multi-select or short answer question. So you can use that little AI button throughout. At the very bottom are all of the section blocks you can build, whether it's headers and paragraphs, whether it's writing analogies and scenarios that you saw inside there. The different media you can add in here. If I want to add images, audio, video, I just click on them, upload it yourself, grab your camera and shoot it, or just pull from our asset library, which has millions of different templates, icons, stock photos, and things like that. And I can get into it that way. But there's also a built-in avatar generator. So if I wanted to, maybe one of these sections, I don't want people to have to read it all. I could just copy all of the content. I could go to the avatar generator, pick the one that I want. I could come in here, pick the background I want it to be. There's a bunch to choose from. I drop in the script. It detects the voice. I can listen to some samples to see if it's the one I want. And then it will basically generate that video and drop it right in. So really cool tools that you could leverage to add more things, even down to like question sets. And AI will write you 5 to 10 questions, flashcards if you want it to be more interactive, click to reveals, things like that. And then you can translate it if you need to translate into multiple languages. It'll do like 60 different languages, not only the text, but the spoken word, also the voiceover prompts and all the closed captionings on certain ones, text, closed captioning, voiceovers. And you can pick and choose the voices that the videos are going to speak. And that's the avatar videos, but also videos that you upload. You can control the quizzes and then obviously make a theme so it looks and feels just like your brand and your style guides. So that was Rush, but this is a super simple to use tool. I can publish it once I'm done. It lives in that library. And then all I do is just drag and drop it into that course bucket that I want it to appear in. And then there it is. I just drag and drop it into sales training. And now I have an effective workplace communication module inside of my sales training course. So that's pretty much that's the big powerful piece in the my learning, my library section, micro learning module. If you're leveraging off the shelf courseware, you can tap into third-party content libraries. But again, it's meant to be super simple for you to kind of build and create and get content in the hands of your learners with ease. And other than that, I know we're coming up on about 5 minutes. I want to leave some time. I see the Q&A kind of blowing up, so I'm going to touch on those. But everything else is pretty straightforward. User management, managing users, the ability to push out course enrollments, which is great, but also all the settings, the bells and whistles, so you can kind of customize it and make it your own. So Liz, I see some questions. Do you want me to just kind of go top down and start answering them?
Go for it.
Yeah, let's do that. So live training, I saw a couple on live trainings, which is great, on the job training as well. So classroom trainings, so one of those content modules was actually an event. So you could do those live training sessions, give it a title, say it's going to start at this date and time, um, training industry. It's going to, let's say we're going to do a later session at 2 o'clock. There was one, and it's going to run until 3 o'clock. So you're setting them up here, and then you can, if it's going to happen at a location, or in this case, it's going to happen via Zoom, and you can permission who has access to get this event. But you're basically deciding, what are the event or instructor-led activities, when it's going to happen. And then once you complete this, give it a title, give it a date. Let's say it's tomorrow. And then you have the ability to save it, and it lives in your content section. And once you drop it into a course, or I have a general calendar one here for events, it's going to show up on that registration link. I'm sorry, on that calendar link on the front. And then you'll have access back here to see exactly who is taking events, whether it's a particular event activity, like this one that's going to be here on the job training, which kind of ties to the other question. Um, and I can go in here and see exactly who's attended, who's not attended, and use it that way. So events in our system for instructor-led and in-person trainings are all like events that you can put in as a module, and it shows up either in the calendar or on the or in someone's course or curriculum. And as far as on the job training, you can leverage, right now we have it set for those learner activities that were showing up on someone's course or module. In this case, they can answer certain questions. Hey, I did this, and I completed this. That's not only going to drive the completion, but it's also going to show the manager what they have been doing. What's coming out, I think, in our next release in mid-February is the ability for someone to be assigned to that activity, whether they're reviewing them on the job site, whether they're reviewing them in person or meeting with them. They'll then have the ability to kind of provide a grade and written materials back to them, so they can have that back and forth, and physically assess what they're doing on the job wise. That's a new user type that's coming in February. So you'll be able to kind of assign someone to a person who are manager, so they can assess and do that on the job training, but also give them a grade and show it up in their transcripts. And not downloadable. Instructor-led training can be a module inside of a course. So yes, you can do that. It would just be, instead of dropping it in the calendar bucket, it would be dropped into a course or curriculum. Can a person include instructor-led training per course? And it's not downloadable. So anything you add into this little attachment section is downloadable. If you add a SCORM file, say inside of the course, like we looked at this one, that would not be downloadable. So if it lives as an attachment to an event, it is downloadable. If you add it within here, it is not downloadable. So it depends where you place the modules inside of the course or curriculum. What kind of security does proprietary content have? We can choose to block content being visible. So yes, so all of the content is obviously proprietary. It's yours. We have no control over any of the content. It's your content, but it's only accessible to the, so if I created this course, or maybe I uploaded this file, it will only be visible to the people that are placed into, where's the big one? Right here, learner group. So if I have multiple audiences coming in to consume training, only the people in that learner group will see it. So you determine who should see the content. So it's permissioned by learner group. So if you are catering to different companies, and I have client A, it's going to see all client A's content, but client B cannot see client A's, but client B should see theirs. You would just have like a client A, client B kind of learner group permission. So completely, separated out by those learner groups. Think of it as like their own little buckets of content. It won't be shared across any of those orgs. So hopefully that was helpful. I know we're coming up on time. I just wanted to share this last little slide here. That is my information. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to schedule some time with me. I know there's some more questions popping in. Liz will send them to me, but I'll get them answered to you via email, or we can jump on a call and talk through them, or I can even show them to if you want, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to continue the conversation and support you any way I can.
Yes, no, thank you, Peter, so much. I'm going to keep the slide on just for a little bit so everybody has time to scan that. But no matter what, you will get this deck as well in the follow-up email. So if you don't have a chance to scan, you will be able to later. But thank you so much, Peter. This was such a great demo.
You bet. My pleasure. Thanks for the time, everyone.